Were the tweets themselves talking about going back to your country, especially many congresswomen who are from America, is that in itself racist?
I didn't take it that way. I understand where some people found it to be insensitive, crude, aggressive. I can understand that. To go as far as to say it was racist, I don't believe it was. When I saw the tweets, when I read the tweets, very much my takeaway was love it or leave it. And that is something that I've said before. That's something that President Trump has said before. It's if you don't like this country, if you want to fundamentally change it, you want to bring socialism to our shores, then you should leave because you're clearly not a fan of the American process.
Well, of course, love it or leave it is offensive in and of itself. Conservatives complain about a lot of things about America. We don't suggest that they should leave. Dissent is patriotic. We all want to make the country a better place. And one way to do that is by dissenting. But look, clearly it is racist. I'm a person who's been debating hot button issues and taking provocative positions publicly for 40 years. Nobody in all of that time has ever suggested to me that I should go back to where my ancestors came from, which, by the way, is England and Poland. And one of them was an illegal immigrant many generations ago. This is something that's only said to people of color. And by the way, Ayanna Pressley, African-American congresswoman, born in Ohio, where is she supposed to go back to exactly? You know, most African-Americans in this country, their ancestors were brought here in chains. And for hundreds of years, when people had a complaint, they would say, go back to Africa. It is insulting. It should be relegated to the dustbins of history. It makes me so angry that our president would say this, and now his supporters are chanting it at a rally.
First of all, I want to speak to that. I don't agree with chanting it at the rally. I'm actually going to be doing final thoughts on Fox Nation about that today. Good. I don't think that that's helpful. Good. I think that that is misinterpreting what Trump meant by his original tweet. So I agree with you on that point. However, I disagree with you when you say no one's ever told you to go back where you came from. Almost on a daily basis, people tell me, well, your ancestors took over this nation and drove out the Native Americans. Go back to where you came from. So I have heard that almost on a daily basis. Well, you should check out my Twitter notifications.
But to the basic point, though, I mean, President Trump complained about this country all the time. His entire 2016 run was complaining about this country. He talked about American carnage. He talked about disgusting. He mocked the president. Nobody said to him, leave the country. Isn't that part of the process?
No, and I agree with you on that. I don't think we should tell people to just leave the country. I do believe, though, what he was referring to is if you want to bring socialism to this country, if you want to ravage this country, if you believe in open borders and a free-for-all, then maybe you don't like the values of this country, because that is not what our country is based on, is socialism, on things like the Green New Deal and the extremism that's coming from the left. So I agree, there's nothing wrong with saying that there are problems in this country. We all think there are problems in this country. But when you want to fundamentally change this country the way those four do, that's what he's taking issue with. That's what I take issue with.
He ran on a campaign of radical change. He wanted to shake
radical
things up.
Change, like Americans
he wanted
come
to
first.
shake things up in Washington. He wanted to do everything differently, and that's what he has done. And to say that these people want open borders is ridiculous. None of them favor open borders. To say that health care for everybody is socialism, I mean, is public education for everybody socialism? People used to say that. Is providing fire coverage by firefighters to everybody? Is that socialism? I mean, there's certain basic things that we're fighting for. It's not socialism. And anyway, they shouldn't have to go back if they're advocating, you know, public policies.
When you say that they don't believe in open borders, when they're talking about decriminalizing illegal entry, sorry, that is open borders.
No, it's not.
And when you say providing health care for all is this wonderful thing, especially illegal immigrants, have you seen the homeless epidemic we have in this state?
Yes, I have.
And we should be spending $100 million a year on health care for illegal immigrants, people who have no legal right.
What's the alternative? Let people be sick and die? Let me respond to your questions, because we are one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And to say that we're not going to provide health care for all of our people, even people who are destitute, who are God's children, who may be homeless because of mental health issues, we shouldn't give them health care? That is un-American.
Let's also get to a point of this that you said. You said you don't agree with the chants of send her back. The president also said that he didn't agree with the chants, but he said that the day after. And then I talked with Joe Biden about that this week during his trip to California. Here's what both of them said.
I was not happy with it. I disagree with it. But again, I didn't say that, they did.
You can imagine if someone said that when I was speaking, what I would have said. No, stop. Speak up, man. Not after the fact. Not after the fact. And look,
you think he's trying to have it both ways?
Pardon me?
Do you think he's trying to have it both ways, to have that in the moment and then the next day walk it back?
Well, he does that all the time and everything.
Heal this country, because clearly point, if that is happening, we're pretty divided right now. If
No.
you're president, how do you
Look,
put the pieces back together?
I think the vast majority of the American people understand what's going on. They get it.
Do you think he's trying to have it both ways?
No, I don't. And I believe the president when he said I disagreed with it. And I think in that moment, he didn't know what to say. Please stop chanting. And maybe he should have. And in fact, I wish he would have, because I don't believe that that's what Trump supporters really believe in. And also, the chant that I prefer to hear is build that wall anyway.
Last thoughts on this?
You know, he is the president. To say that he can't show leadership is too much to ask of him when he's standing there for 10 seconds silently while they're just following up on what he had tweeted. It's absurd. Are our standards for our president so low that we can't even hold him to account when people are saying, send her back? I mean, please, I think we can insist on better.
Okay, well, after all that, let's change up the mood a little bit, right? No worries. Hakuna Matata.
We all like music.
So there is a new Disney movie is out this week as Lion King. This is Donald Glover in the role of Simba. And so coming up next, we're going to be talking more with this panel, including the latest in what's happening here in California politics. Very interesting. Big changes this week. We'll come back.
I hope.
Is this bringing us together?
We may not all like the same kind of music. We might, though. I don't know.
You excited about Lion King? Quinnipiac released a new poll of California Democrats this week, and Kamala Harris pulled ahead for the first time. She's at 23, Biden at 21, Sanders at 18. While Kamala Harris may have the most momentum when it comes to polling, South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg has the most when it comes to collecting California cash. He raised more from the California than the California senator did. Here are the latest numbers for the second quarter. Mayor Pete at $3.8 million, Harris at $3.3 million, Joe Biden at $2.4 million. By the way, all three of them hosting fundraisers in California this week. They'll all be back on a stage for the next Democratic debate. It's in Detroit on CNN. It's going to be 2 nights, and now we know who will be on stage with whom. On night 1, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren will share a stage. That's on Tuesday, July 30th. Mayor Pete is also going to be on that night. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they'll be back together for a rematch on stage on Wednesday, July 31st. Back with our panel now, Lisa Bloom, Tomi Lahren. Lisa, where do you see the state of the race right now?
I love Kamala Harris. I thought she killed it in the debate. I was very impressed with her. I've gone to some of her fundraisers, and, you know, she's not taking PAC money, and Mayor Pete is. I like Mayor Pete very much, but taking PAC money, I think that's kind of old school, and most of the Democratic candidates are not doing that anymore.
Political Action Committee translation. Yes, where do you see the state of the race?
I'm excited for the next debate. I think that the reason that Kamala did so well after the first debates is because people didn't actually watch the debate. They watched clips of the debate, and they watched clips of the debate wherein Kamala went after Joe Biden, and, you know, she hit some punches there, and they were good. And so people were watching clips of that, so they were very excited about Kamala, but they were watching a 30-second soundbite. They didn't watch the entirety of the debate.
Although it did have record ratings, 18 million people tuned in for the debate, the highest rated Democratic debate ever. So at least some people tuning in, but a lot more people saw the clips. And as you were mentioning, in this viral world, that probably does change the way you go after somebody. Confrontation really rewarded right now,
And
so we'll see.
I think what Democrats want to see is who has what it takes to beat Trump. And it really didn't matter what she said. What she showed was that she's tough. She's a fierce debater. She doesn't back down. She'll stand up to anybody. She'll stand up to her own party. And I think showing that she would stand up to Trump.
Let's talk about California for a moment. A couple other issues this week, real quick takes. There's apparently a rat explosion. This is happening City Hall, downtown Los Angeles, other parts of the state. There was a study that came out that showed rat population way up, being blamed for some of the typhus outbreaks, some of these medieval diseases that are coming back. Some activists say part of the problem is that policymakers are not allowing for different types of ways to kill rats because they're worried about the environmental impact of that with other animals. Tomi, where do you see this? Is this sort of a bigger symbol for what's happening in this state?
An infestation in California, absolutely. I don't know, again, I don't know the exact causes of this rat infestation, but I would probably say that the homeless encampment issue and the feces on the streets, that probably doesn't help much when you're trying to deter rats. So when you have your streets and your highways and your interstates being filled with those wonderful encampments, that certainly doesn't help the problem.
I mean, where do you see this? Because they do say that the homelessness is to blame for this, and some are saying maybe this is another example of liberal policies not working.
Well, shame on us for having over 50,000 homeless people in Los Angeles. That is to our shame. It is horrendous. It is horrendous mostly for the people who are homeless, but also for the businesses and for everybody else. We passed a bond measure of over $1 billion to build the housing. The problem is nobody wants it in their backyard, right? The NIMBYs. And so it has to be, I suppose, forced into different areas, different parts of the city. We also have to have denser population allowed in different parts of the city so that we can build apartments. People don't want that, but we've got to address this issue.
And lastly, another issue came out of Berkeley this week, and this is a question of potentially too much political correctness. They've said that they're not going to have manholes anymore. They're going to be calling them maintenance holes. They're getting rid of pronouns when it comes to referencing anything. So no more fraternities or sororities. It's the collegiate Greek system residents. Pregnant women will not be called pregnant women. It's just going to be pregnant employees. I know this is sort of your brand. Is this just a softball?
I think we agree that there are a lot of issues, not only in this country, but especially in California. So the fact that we're worried about word policing instead of actual policing of our borders, of our cities, and we're worried about offending somebody by the name manhole, I think that that's pretty indicative of where we're at in the state of California.
Well, I think we can do multiple things at once. This costs $600 to change, so it was very small. And I think language.
Give that to a homeless person.
And I think language matters. We don't say newsman, we say newscaster. We don't say fireman, we say firefighter. You know, one of the arguments against Sandra Day O'Connor going on the Supreme Court in 1981 was, well, we can't have a woman because it's Mr. Justice. So we've changed language over the years to be more inclusive, and I don't see anything wrong with it. We should continue to do that.
The only one that sort of surprised me is the pregnant one, because I don't know how you be a pregnant man.
Because you could be transgender and you can still get pregnant.
But
and people get to be identified by the gender that they
But then you'd be a pregnant
associate with.
woman, right?
Not necessarily. You could be a transgender man and you could still get pregnant and give birth.
Only in
right,
California
maybe.
will we be discussing this, by the way.
No, that's
Only
not
in
true.
California.
There's transgender people all over the country, and I'm so glad that they're finally getting some of the respect that they deserve.
Okay, well, as we go to break, some assistance from Taylor Swift, because both of our panelists have dealt with plenty of haters in the day.
That is true.
So what's their advice for shaking it off? We're going to have it right after this.
Haters gonna hate, right. Taylor Swift fan?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah. All right, well, our panelists this week don't have a ton in common, but they are both fighters, right? Lisa Bloom and Tomi Lahren. Tomi just written this new book about this. It's called Never Play Dead. I'd love to read one quote from it that I think sort of talks about this concept, right? It says, here it is, put up on the screen. I've been fired, sued, dropped, disinvited, heckled, laughed at, slandered, betrayed, and dumped, but that didn't break me. So I want to talk to both of you about sort of how do you deal with the haters. Let's start with you, Lisa.
Well, listen, as a human being, it does hurt sometimes. I'm going to be very honest. I like to project this tough exterior. I'm a trial lawyer, but I'm a human being, and it can be very hard. But we have to remind ourselves that literally everybody in the public eye has haters. I tell my clients when we're getting ready to sue, Bill Cosby or Donald Trump, that you're going to get haters. Mother Teresa had haters, and you have to dig down to the tough part of yourself. You also have to surround yourself with people who do like you and support you and are cheering for you.
God, how bad a person do you have to be a Mother Teresa hater?
Right?
I mean, can you imagine at the age of Twitter back in those times?
Yeah.
But, and I agree with you on this. And for me, it's something I also write about in the book. This book isn't just for conservatives. I have a lot of liberal female friends as well, and we support each other and we like each other. You and I can talk and we can like each other. We can talk about things that are not political, and we can respect the other position, the other point of view. And I think we've gotten to a point in this country where the litmus test for friendship has been, who have you voted for? And if you voted the wrong way, then they don't want anything to do with you. And we need to get away from that. We can be friends, we can respect each other. And at the end of the day, my notifications on Twitter don't define me, and they never will.
Right.
Well, Tomi has some great stories in this book. It's not really a politics book. It's more about what we're talking about, overcoming adversity. We're going to talk about that in a special podcast, which you can stream right now with Tomi. Just search for The Issue Is. In fact, all of our past content available in podcast form wherever you search, including conversation with Ann Coulter, Kim Kardashian, Mayor Pete, Gavin Newsom, Ben Lyons, Areva Martin, and Lisa Bloom. And by the way, before we go, congratulations to you, Tomi, on getting engaged.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we've got
a
a picture of that we want to show of you and Brandon, and a very nice ring there.
Thank you.
He's like the envy of every conservative guy out there.
Well, I appreciate that.
And Lisa, as we go, I have a present for you. Not a ring, because I don't have that kind of money.
Okay, I already have one.
But I do have some music. This is Lizzo, who
My
I know is one of your favorites,
I love
right?
her. Yes.
This is Good as Hell. And because it is the weekend, right? What's not to celebrate?
Yeah,
Tommy can
exactly.
celebrate her ring and book money coming in. We can celebrate.
Any woman who needs a self-esteem boost should listen to Lizzo.
Yes, we love Lizzo. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. See you next time on The Issue Is.
She's so great. She's so great. You said she was in studio. Did you say you interviewed her? No. No? Oh. I thought. Maybe. Somebody told me they interviewed her.